Welcome to today's episode. Today's episode is sponsored by electric cars that we really like to have because gas prices, right?
Either select remote style, and we'll see if the original actually lets us cut in and do the shameless plug ahead of time. But if you do get to see that, you'll notice that whiskey and cheese manifested itself right in front of your eyes, and that's half of the magic. So, yeah, this is your show, baby. I'm just happy to be a part of it, trying out some stuff, got a green screen. If it looks like there's something going on in the background, we did it right. If it looks like a big tarp, not so much. But, hey, we're learning, we're growing.
We're gonna do it right.
So I love what you've been doing. I've been super, super happy with being able to be on your show, talk to, people that we brought on as a group, Devin Dalton, Adam Rivera.
Shout out Adam.
And, I enjoy the shit out of this and want to do more of it. So we're trying it at my place for the first time. Again, hashtag Shelor Select, hashtag Perpetual Mechanism. First time announcement. We are live and legitimate. So now it's getting it started. So, all right. Let's get to the important things. So, get a little Lagavulin 16. First time you've ever tried this, isn't it?
First time. Yeah, first time. I got in, I saw, Nick Offerman.
Yeah.
From Parks and Rec. He's got his own little
you
version.
reports on good.
Yeah, for a little bit.
Yeah.
But he had his own blend of it, I think. And that's the reason I was like,
I think his is aged 14 years because Lagavulin's done. So there's oh man.
Salute. Appreciate it.
Salute indeed.
Ooh, I'm digging that.
Tastes like it smells.
Woo!
Delicious.
But yeah, go ahead. Sorry, I'm there.
So, Nick Offerman, he started doing that in Parks and Rec, and he actually has worked with Lagavulin for some time. And he's got his new one, and it's 12 or 14 years age, somewhere in that neighborhood. I'll look it up later and post that up in video. I'm not right in front of the monitor and the keyboard. I probably should put maybe just my keyboard there to look some shit up so we can fire it up on the computer next time.
That would be a bad idea. Yeah, I like something right there.
Yeah.
Well, trial and error, we're doing it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm currently reading his book, Where the Deer and Antelope Play. Okay. And it's basically his takes on like everything that's happening with the world right now. And it's a good thing. He's a pretty smart dude, and he talks about his come up and from acting and where he's been, and talks about some whiskey. But yeah, he's a big woodworker too, which I didn't really like. I thought it was part of the Parks and Rec. I thought it was just kind of a joke thing, but he's actually legit woodworker. He don't call himself a master, but
he does. There's another show with him and Amy Poehler called Making It, and it's really fun. It kind of that whole vibe of every week craftsmen come on and they have challenges, and then they continue to remove someone until the end. There's a master craftsman.
Yeah,
but instead of that like angry vibe where it's like, well, you screwed up here, here, and here, it's more like, all right, like, hey, this was what we liked. This could have been improved upon, but, thanks for coming out. Like, kind of that, we appreciate you being here, which I think is a much more wholesome vibe than somebody being like, get the fuck out of my kitchen. It's like, well, yeah, you did undercook the chicken and you could have killed somebody, but could you just be like, leave?
What is this, Making It?
Making It.
What's it on? I've never heard.
I know it's on Amazon. Actually, I was catching a plane flight and saw Nick Offerman and Amy Poehler on that. I was like, no shit.
Yeah.
And it's a fun show.
It's like a sketch comedy, or?
No, legitimately, it's like people coming in who are, master craftsmen of their trade. Yeah. And they're trying to make stuff.
Oh, making it. Like actual making.
Oh, yeah. It's really one of those. But he does a lot of that woodworking shit. Yeah. And he's like, check this out. I think one of them, they blindfold him and they have him smell to see if he knows the different types of woods by smell. And he gets a couple of them right. So, I mean, shit. You put wood in front of me and I'm like, I ain't that way.
I was going to say, that has to be insanely tough to even try to do.
Yeah. Well, you're just
smell different woods.
Like
I didn't even realize they had their own.
He got the cedar right, and I was like, okay.
Like salmon do have a different smell.
But like oak, pine, things like that. When you're in a wood shop and you're just cutting through boards all day, you do get familiarized with that smell. My I guess now cousin, hashtag married, but they have a local woodworking shop and sawmill. And you go in there and you can smell if they're like, cutting pine heavy that day or doing some oak work and stuff. And you'll smell the difference. And like, I can't tell all the time, but it is something that, you go in there and you're like, all right, cool. Something to appreciate and enjoy.
Yeah. I mean, that's one thing, like, growing up and even in today's time, like, I'm very ignorant when it comes to stuff. Like, people walk around like, that's a maple tree. That's a pine tree.
Oh, I don't know shit.
Yeah. And
like, pine, because there's needles around, I'm like, that's about it.
Exactly. But, like, so I guess when you are working with it every day and like someone says, this is a pine tree or this is pine wood, and then you start to learn, like, it resonates with all your senses. Okay, here's maple, here's cherry. I don't know what other wood or out there, hickory. But, yeah. But I guess
there's, like, white ash and wormy chestnut and all these things. I'm like, wood. You make shit from it.
You burn it.
Yeah, you burn it when you need to stay warm. You put your furniture in when you need it, cabinets and stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, and then there's, like, the different wood veneers because of their pattern. And there's a whole subculture. Like, this is not, by the way, on any of the topics we have on this screen. But I'll bring it back to the whiskey. Aging things in oak. Like, oak has become incredibly difficult to get a hold of, and it's been a boom and a bust for the industry because a lot of whiskeys are aged in a very specific, like, fresh oak. But now some of these whiskey and distilleries are deciding, like, well, if we get something that was aged in Jameson, so let's go ahead and age ours in it and let's see how it tastes. So now you're getting more complex and complete flavors because people are like, well, shit, I can't find a cask new. I'll get an old one. They'll try it and they're like, okay, that's actually a really good flavor. Let me go ahead and set up a deal. I'll buy, 500 to 1,000 of these old casks from you guys and age them, like, the Balvenie 12 aged in sherry. So its Orsillo casks are highly sought after because they age their sherry, and then other people are like, well, we want to age ours for 2 or 3 years because it really gets some of that unique sherry flavor, softens it up like we were talking about earlier, and provides, like, a very nice tasting experience. So, yeah, it's good stuff. Lots to be. I mean, there's so much to learn in the world.
Dude, there's so much to learn. One thing, we've only explored like 10% of the ocean. I found that's one thing that blew my mind. They found, when I say they, scientists, I guess, whoever, marine biologists, found, like, some kind of new fish. And I was like, what the hell, man? Off all the world, like, I think the water covers up 3/4 of it, and we got 10%.
Can you eat it? Is it tasty?
I don't remember. It was just a headline. That's all I read of it. And I was like, okay, new fish, whatever. Right. No big deal. I didn't really care about that much. I'm like a shark or something. But it was just, I think it just lives on the bottom, deep, deep part, but it's black in the ocean. They somehow found something.
Yeah, I couldn't imagine being the dude who's, like, or a chick running around, like, has a little light and a camera and be like, oh, what's that shit? And everybody's like, I don't know. And then you basically got to run it up the tree of experts to be like, well, do you know what this is? Do you know what this is? No. Like, I guess I found something new.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of cool, though, to even find, like, I discovered some new species.
Yeah.
But, I mean, even, there was a movie with, I think it was Matthew McConaughey, that he was talking about, like, all the shipwrecks and the treasure that's in the bottom of the ocean that's nobody's ever even still found to this day.
That wasn't Sahara, was it?
Well, he did Sahara, but it was like, it was almost like a romantic comedy, but not maybe Fool's Gold, like Kate Hudson.
You lost me, man. I mean,
it's not a true story, obviously, but they come up at the end, like, this much of the ocean has actually been found, new treasures in the ocean.
Right.
But yeah, Sahara was a good movie. I think it's an underrated movie.
Okay.
I like it.
I mean, I appreciated it for what it was. Like, it was, at the time, you had Brendan Fraser in The Mummies. He's coming back, and apparently he's a super wholesome dude. And I was like, you know what, good for the wholesome actors coming out and not Weinsteining the shit out of stuff. Like, what is it, Louis C.K., I think I told you that joke some time ago where he's like, man, could they have just, for House of Cards, waited like 4 months until they were coming out for the Me Too movement? It's like, oh, it's a little spicy, but House of Cards, he just, and the reason I bring that up is he had like a $38 million lawsuit that Netflix won where he had to pay damages because...
Louis C.K.?
No.
Brendan Fraser.
No. Who's the guy, he touched the 14
wow.
I can see his face.
Yep.
And he was the main character from House of Cards. I'm brain farting.
Yeah, it just fucked me over too.
Yeah, and once they transitioned the story away from him, shit, like I said, I can...
Yeah, I got it down.
I got it.
Yeah.
So we'll update that, edit out our stupidity. Or not.
I got it. Keep talking. I got it.
All right. Technology, which again, is the beauty of being able to do stuff like this. You know,
Kevin Spacey.
Kevin
God.
Spacey. We spaced on that one. Yeah, it was still funny. Not as knowledgeable as it used to be, but still funny.
Matters, right. Man. It takes you places.
So, being able to, see that you get consequences from having to pay out that kind of money. Like, I've never heard of damages being on the actor before, so that'll be interesting to see. As more stuff comes out of people being dirtbags or not, it's like, okay, well, how do we address that as a series, or do we even care what the fuck actors talk about? We're doing things on YouTube. You've been doing it now for over a year. And I mean, consistent, staying in there, like the gym. 2 things I've not done, been on YouTube or in the gym in a while. Yeah. We'll see if I can change both of those around. But, having that morality stick with you, how people are just coming together and saying, okay, like we do care what this person does, because, the idea of celebrity, we've been pushing forward a lot as Americans to, send this all over the world. Now it's catching on, like, a lot of K-pop, Korean TV is becoming more popular over here. And, people are, hashtag celebrities right off the get. You get Netflix Squid Games. Yeah. That dude went from, like, nobody knew who he was, and the chick who was, like, the tough North Korean. Have you seen the show?
Yeah, I watched it. It was great.
Yeah, so she went from, like, 200K followers or something to, like, 8 million, like, in a day. Because people are like, who is she? And so you can, jump up and get that celebrityism, and then you get to the point of like, well, what if you were a dirtbag way back when?
Like before you got popular.
Before you got popular. And I think that there's really 2 types of people. Well, I'll give them 3. You get your Brendan Frasers, your Keanu Reeves, people that it's like, oh, I tried to dig up some dirt. My favorite was Keanu Reeves. They were like digging in, like, this guy's got to be an asshole. And they found out that he donated hundreds of millions to like cancer for children. Yeah. And it's like, look at that. Look at that piece of shit.
No, he gives stuff to like the people who help him make the movie, like watches and
every
shit.
time.
Yeah.
Like
he rides subways. Like he's like the most low down key Earth person. He fucked that up way big, but yeah. Down to earth person. Yeah, there you go. There it is.
I remember like Matrix 2 or something where they're doing a like rainy scene and everybody's like, out there. Apparently it was super cold and the extras didn't have blankets. And he's like, okay, can we get them blankets? I'm like, well, it's going to cost money. He dropped like $400,000 and was like, blankets for everybody, because like that's just common decency. Yeah. And he just does stuff like that. And, like, he really enjoys working with the team, and you can see like. And there's also that controversy of where people are like, well, he's not the greatest actor. I know my missus doesn't like him as an actor. She doesn't like him as an actor. Like, he's a great guy, but she doesn't care for him as an actor. And I'm like, you know what? That's cool. Like, I think that his acting is subpar. He's not going to win an Academy Award for the depth of, like, Leonardo DiCaprio who finally got it. But he's a great guy, and I love all the movies he's in. Yeah. I was like, his entire catalog I watch a shit out of. Like, from Speed forward. And
like Bill and Ted.
Dude,
that's when I first found out about him.
And I forgot about Bill and Ted and Rufus. Rest in peace, George Carlin. Just the whole, everything that he's been in, I enjoy. Are they going to, knock down the Academy Awards and get like 5 Oscars? Shit, no. But, I mean, nothing The Rock's been in is going to do that. And what is it? They're like, who's someone who plays the same character, and it's like 4 pictures of The Rock. Right, these are different movies. Like, and he's wearing the same shit.
The Jungle Cruise.
Yeah. But, they're fun movies, and they do well because people want to have that kind of like light-hearted, low-key, easygoing, and then you get someone like Keanu Reeves, and again, not on the fucking script, by the way. You get him in the movies like John Wick. John Wick in Spiderman, which is on our topic, they scored in the high 90s. And that's great because you have other people who are really kind of leading that Oscar-winning performance that are built around these leading characters who, you may not want to have that depth of, they're reciting, old Shakespearean sonnets. We're looking for people that are really dedicated, dogged on him for his acting skills, but his ability to train and learn kung fu, to do the gun. Like, he shot like 15,000, 20,000 rounds with weapons.
Oh yeah, he actually practices.
He practices
like
a lot.
in California. Like, he actually legit practices, and he's a good shooter too.
Yes.
Like, they talk high about him.
Yeah.
He's good.
And if he shows up, he's literally the epitome of like the greatest coworker you want, because they show up, they do their job well, and they're not bad at anything, and they're a pleasure to be around. So everybody, like, I love watching the excerpts from, like, you know, the ladies that he works with, the dudes, and like, he's incredible talent that comes out and just performs, does his job, and he goes home quiet. I'm not that dude. I will perform fucking immaculately or terribly, and people are going to know about it, and I'm going to run that mouth.
Yeah.
But going back to, you know, people being dirtbags way back when, it's like, you know, trying to navigate our landscape, and I'm not letting you talk at all. Sorry about that.
That's cool, man. You're saying good shit, so I'm just letting you roll. So yeah.
You know, people who used to be a dirtbag are still a dirtbag. Fuck them. You know, like, there has to be, though, the understanding and room for sometimes, you know, you screw up. You know, people who are, you know, 6, 10 years old who are in abusive situations don't know that when they're kids.
Yeah.
And then people who are even in their early 20s. Like, shout out to the Virginia governor of soon-to-be former, because he got voted out for, was he the blackface or the Klansman?
He was. He did blackface.
Yeah, because he threw that out quick, like, in a hurry. He's like, no, I wasn't in the Klan outfit.
Yeah, he did blackface.
He's like, I was just blackface. But, you know, you think about that then, and people are trying to, like, vilify him. And I'm like, what was the personal growth that happened? Because there's so many comedians now that are talking about, like, well, you know, you can be funny about other things. You know, Dave Chappelle. Shout out to Dave Chappelle and Chick-fil-A, because, you know, they can say whatever the fuck they want. People still lined up to see him.
Yeah, he's catching heat off his new special, though.
Absolutely.
His transgender stuff.
Well, the transgender community is very upset because he dogged them for their toxic, you know, because I watched the special. Fantastic special.
I thought it was great.
He's dogging them not because of how they feel, what they're going through, etc. He dogged them because of the toxic community that they are. That, you know, I mean, there's positive points there too, but he was being like, hey, you guys are real assholes about this, and you caused my near and dear friend to commit suicide because she couldn't handle it. And, you know, he tells that, you know, heartwarming story that is ultimately crushing. And he's not dogging out people for being trans. He's dogging them out for how they're acting like a bunch of assholes that are entitled. But, you know, they didn't like that. The trans community's like, you're being very hurtful. And he's just like, hey, you know, fuck it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, every community's like that almost right now. Just because you dog them one bit, they're going to come after you.
Hard.
Doesn't matter what you do.
Yeah. Except for rednecks, people in the South, like, we're good. Men
are like, all right, cool, whatever. Rednecks always get dogged.
Yeah.
I mean, ever since...
They're in the woods.
I mean, 30 years, 40 years ago, I mean, that was how it's always been. You know, it's even still demeaning to call someone a redneck. But everyone's like, all right, fuck it, I don't care.
I was actually in D.C. some time ago, and he's like, well, you know, hey, he was, I don't remember what country it was. It was African, Northwestern, and like, I'll think about it now. I remember it wasn't Ethiopia, because I got some people from there. But like, he was talking to me, and he's like, well, does anybody ever call you because of my accent? He's like, redneck. And I was like, wait, is that supposed to be a bad thing? Like, I was like, yeah, if you're waving around and being like, well, the South will rise again. Like, how about we just lean it back to, I'm proud of, you know, my Appalachian heritage for, you know, not the terrible shit that happened. It's like, you know, trying to be a proud German and saying Sieg Heil. Like, that's not really where you're wanting to go back to. It's like the Third Reich. I'm not looking to go back to this idea of like, well, we'll put the dark ones out in the field. Like, no, but, you know, be proud of who you are from a heritage of like, I grew up on the land. Yeah. Being self-sufficient, enjoying the music, enjoying the food, things that all cultures have in common but are very different. You know, like, you know, if you're going to Chinese New Year's and they're having traditional Chinese dishes, not fucking General Tso's and shit like that, but, you know, like actual dishes from their homeland. You're going to a Irish festival and they're having traditional song, dance, and music. You know, things that you can really, you know, identify with and agree with, learn from, and appreciate, whether or not you're a part of that culture. You know, these are things you should be proud of. But the idea of, you know, subjugating an entire group of individuals maybe you should kind of reflect on whether or not that's your value set.
Yeah. Well, I mean, echoing what you just said, I mean, if you think about it, all cultures started living off the land and living all with no technology, obviously, and living in all certain ways. But, I mean, I hate saying this, but, people, I think today, some people realize that food only comes from the grocery store, and they don't understand, like, hey, it's actually comes from the land or comes from farm or whatever before it gets to the grocery store, and they don't realize that.
What was that terrible meme, that chick that was like, oh my God, why do we kill animals when you get meat at the grocery store?
Oh my gosh.
I don't even know if that's real or legitimate, but we've been making fun of it for so long.
But most people, you call it genetic memory or whatever, but we stick to our traits and to our tribe. But somewhere along the way, some people get lost, and then they maybe find a group of people who are echoing what they're believing in. If, Keanu Reeves is the next best actor in the world or whatever, and then they'll find a community who surrounds themselves with it. Then they go into these ideologies about, oh, this is the way now.
Yeah. And you know what? Having the community where you guys, and us guys,
not saying it's right,
agree on something may be great.
Mm-hmm.
But it's when you start trying to take away from other people that you're really like, well, are you trying to take away from other people because they're trying to touch children? Or are you trying to take away from other people because you feel like you're a piece of shit, and by dogging them, you'll feel better about it?
Yeah, I mean, everybody wants to be right. And support their cause, whatever, and I get that. I mean, everyone likes being right, but when they're told wrong is when it goes to hell, and then whatever they've always believed in beforehand, they're going to keep this echoing and even shouting from the rooftops until everyone gets behind it. But it's like, hey, stop. You're not, look around, open up your eyes, be open-minded a little bit.
A little bit, like, be...
Not a lot, but this, hey.
Enough to where you're taking in qualified information.
Mm-hmm.
And you can't just say, well, no, it's garbage because it's coming from somebody I don't agree with. It's like, well, how did they get their information? Did it come from a qualified source? Is it making you question it because it's right and you're uncomfortable, or because there wasn't enough due diligence on their behalf to where now it's like, well, it isn't quite right because of X, Y, or Z. Like, are you being, objectively reviewing this information? So that, all that spiel ties into how far back do we look at people and how much do we look at their growth? And, you come a long ways. Every year, every 5 years, every 10, we start looking at, old grabbing by the pussy, 45. And like he said something in the 90s that every businessman in New York that was coked up would have said like 3 times a day between their martinis.
In the 90s. I mean, he got rap songs. Was it fun?
Yeah, that's me.
Oh, what kind of professionalism is this?
the kind that didn't put it on mute.
That's all good. But no, like in the 90s, he had rap songs made about him, and he was Trump, the millionaire guy. Everyone wanted to be him until that thing just keep going, bro.
It's hot.
He's a popular guy.
Yeah. Yeah. Spoke his name. He's calling.
That's right.
I didn't know we were like that.
Trump was burning. But yeah. God, we kind of lost my train of thought now.
Yeah. So, but he was a big guy in the 90s.
Yeah,
had rap songs. Lots of friends that were of various communities. He's like, oh, I got a black friend. Like, oh God. That did not age well. But
definitely.
But you get that kind of group, that kind of guy, and they say things then. And he is a really good example of how to judge someone from that time period. He didn't change. He didn't grow. He was rewarded for 50 fucking years. It's like, well, if you're a loud asshole, you'll get what you want.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, before he became president, my favorite story, and again, I hope I'm not rehashing shit I've said, but, he borrowed like $30 million from France and didn't pay it back. And France sued him in court. And he was such a pain in the ass. Like, he was like blowing them up, filing threats, countersuits and shit like that. France said, fuck it, keep the money. And my first thought was like, all right, now that right there is the kind of asshole I want to be sometimes, because like I couldn't imagine going to a foreign country, hucking millions of dollars, and being such an asshole that they're like, fuck it, we don't need the money.
It wasn't worth their time.
We got wine and cheese. Fuck it, we're good. Just stay the hell away.
So, wow. But he loves being that type of person, I think, though. He gets off of it.
Well, of course he does.
Yeah.
Again, it's like he's been rewarded for it every step of the way.
Yeah.
I mean, he got a lot of shit for it from the news and media when he was president, but he got to be president of the United States.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he was an asshole all the way up through, which could be arguably like the pinnacle of U.S. society. Mm-hmm. Like, there's not really a job other than being Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos that's like where you can say, I am now the senior most executive representative of a country.
Sure.
And we're fighting China and Russia as best we can. We still buy a lot of Chinese shit, and the Russians occasionally hack us from time to time, less than China. But we're still like we're a first world country. We're a pretty big deal.
Yeah, we're doing okay.
And he made it by being a complete dick.
Yeah.
Got it. Like, and you can't judge him because he was winning, like Charlie Sheen, for being such a dick. Because he was taught that for, again, half of a century of positive reinforcement. And now we're getting, guys in our mid-30s and, women too, and people who, however they identify. As long as they're not touching kids, I don't give a fuck.
Yeah.
Like, that's kind of where I draw the line. It's like, don't do it with animals either. I feel like that's kind of wrong.
Kind of weird.
I'm going to draw those lines if I get canceled in 5 years, or in a year and a half. Who knows? But, people who aren't growing, people who aren't seeing some of these things and be like, questioning it. And, we're seeing that the older people are like, well, I'm not going to change my ways based on, X, Y, or Z. It's like, that's fine. That's your hill where you're standing. But it's not really where, you're going to be, judged heavily on, whereas we have to really kind of, float around and figure things out. Like, is this a trend? Is this something that we should really, review and grow on? Is this something that, we need to be like, all right, let's really kind of dig in and learn more about it. It's interesting.
Do you think that, when we talk about this, like what's your definition of success is, but can you be your definition of, or the vague term of success by you have to be a dick to be that successful? Or an asshole, or whatever you want to say? Or is there a balance? Or
there's absolutely a balance.
Yeah.
And,
can you get to a certain level of Trump millionaire status? Not let's say millionaire status or presidential. You don't say presidential status, but do you have to be a dick along the way? Or can you just be, I guess, a regular person and not be a dick only in certain cases? Or is it very situational? Does that kind of make sense? Or that makes sense?
Well, let's roll it back to a president beforehand, and we'll use the same thing. Like Barack Obama wasn't a dick.
Yeah.
He exemplified what it was to really kind of be a good Republican president, and I didn't say that incorrectly. His voting was very moderate, and other than the blue badge, go Team Blue, Team Red, because if my team doesn't win, I'm upset for 4 years. And like, is this football, or is this kind of where our nation should be going? Because I'm still wondering if gas prices are too damn high, but the president doesn't affect it until they do, and won't go into that shit. But, he wasn't an ass. Like, he came up, he was a university, I think it was Harvard professor for a while in business law. So it's funny because people are like, well, he doesn't know anything about law. It's like, he was a Harvard business law professor before he was a senator. Now, was he there a lot as a senator? No, he showed up when he had to, and not much more past that, and that's okay. Dude became a president for 8 years. Wasn't an asshole. Like, people try to dig up dirt on him, and it's like, well, what was it? It's like, well, we can't find his birth certificate, but we can't find any proof of him being an asshole either. So there it is. And, jokes aside, he also, by following a value set very different from Trump, became what is arguably the most successful person in the United States in that position. And in pretty good time, too, for someone that wasn't, immediately identified as American royalty, Kennedys, things like that, like people who had a lot of both monetary and social clout.
Sure.
Didn't fucking touch on any of that. So I guess, young professionalism, work-life balance, maybe some of that. We did the whiskey plug. Hurrah!
Hey.
So this will be fun. We're going to try this out for the first time, and keep getting calls. So we're going to try this out for the first time. You're going to help me out. Thank you, by the way. We're going to go to a commercial break. Not really, because we'll keep talking after this, but it's a good segue for a break. Refill the drink. You're actually going to watch us do that shit, or there's going to be a successful stop. We'll find out in a minute. But here's to seeing us in just a moment.
See you in a few minutes.
And so, we had our break. You either, like I said, heard us bullshitting or didn't. But the cool thing, we're talking about, Spiderman. And so this will be spoiler-free.
Spoiler alert.
Generalities. Spoiler alert.
No spoiler alert.
No spoiler alert.
Hopefully not.
So, all right. We got 100% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Yeah.
It's dropped down to 93.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
Yeah, hateful motherfuckers.
There's always people out there got to be fucking negative towards something, man.
Always.
Doesn't matter. It's just the cool thing to do. It's like, everyone loves Spider-Man. Everyone loves Marvel. It doesn't even matter if you're a DC fan or whatever, but there's always that one person. I fucking hate it.
Yeah, I didn't like it because I don't like nice things.
Basically, yeah. Like, I hate myself and I hate everything else.
Everybody else likes it, so I don't.
Exactly.
It's like,
they gotta be that one person. It's all right, whatever, dude. And you hate it. Who cares?
Yeah. So thank you for your opinion. Move the fuck on.
Exactly.
But yeah, so you got to see it. I haven't yet.
Yeah, I got tickets. I didn't have to pay $25,000 or whatever. I didn't know why they were. I think because AMC was giving away NFTs if you went to the pre-show or one of the first ones. And they gave you some Marvel NFT, and I think that's why in that area or wherever the AMC theater was, tickets were getting scalped for $25,000.
I mean, I didn't know
non-fungible tokens.
Yeah, non-fungible tokens were being thrown out there.
But I think that was only one major headline. But we went over here to Blacksburg, and it was crowded, but we got seats. So
yeah, and you got to see it. It was good.
I mean, I approved. I mean, I've heard people say it's the best Marvel movie out there right now.
It's a bold statement.
It's a very bold statement. I mean, it's good. I mean, it was great. I mean, is it better than Infinity War? Is it better than Endgame? I'm more of an Iron Man guy anyway, but the very first Iron Man I really enjoyed. So is it better than that? You can argue all day about it, but it's good. It's definitely worth going to see. I mean,
okay.
If you're not scared of COVID. But yeah.
Well, right. Well, we're on
Omicron,
Persei.
We don't have to get into that, but it's super good. I mean, it opens up the world to endless possibilities, like I said, for the Marvel Universe. And all these movies are just good, wholesome, fun movies.
They are.
Yeah.
And, we were talking about a little bit in there, they're able to open up more varieties of now, like similar to what Loki did. So if you haven't seen Loki, this is a slight spoiler. So the timeline thing that they did in Loki, allowed them to open up a lot of the Marvel universe right off the get. And then Marvel's really pushing into that alternate universe, alternate reality, which if you read the comics, by the way, guys, this is 20 years old, maybe 30. This isn't new. You can Google this shit.
I got a question on that.
So, being able to see that, the comics, see where things are generally going, it's great because now they're not having to worry about retconning everything and saying, well, we meant this back then, but now we mean this, et cetera, et cetera. It's like that's just another universe, another alternative. Go. So that's cool.
Yeah. My question is, all right. So we were talking last night about how she'd only seen like a handful of these movies, right? Not
right.
So
you're lady.
Yeah, so we can say that. So obviously, you've read the comics, you've seen all. Have you seen all the Marvel stuff? Everything. Okay. Yeah. So if somebody wanted to go drop in right now and say, how many hours do you think they would have to spend just in we can just do Marvel TV and video just to catch up with everything because she was asking questions. Did you watch this one? She's nice.
There's 26
maybe
movies
26,
now.
Maybe 27 now.
2 hours minimum. So we'll say that. The series.
2 hours.
Mm-hmm. The series, so Loki was 6 episodes or 8?
I must say 8. 6 seems too short.
Well, we'll err on the side of caution.
Yeah.
So 8.
Okay.
8 in an hour. Hawkeye's out, and it'll be full on hour. I think it's 8. And then Scarlet.
WandaVision,
which was
Falcon.
I haven't seen that one.
Really?
They gotta go behind on that. No, I like them both. Anthony Mackie and Sebastian Stan.
But so if you want to jump in, how many hours you think you're putting in?
70, 80 hours probably. Full 2 work weeks. And it's worth it if you like that stuff.
Yeah,
I do. So I'm nerdy as fuck.
Yeah.
And
I enjoy the superhero movies. I always have. It doesn't matter what superhero movie it is. Usually, I'm pretty biased towards them. I like them. When we just said people were going to hate them, but even the Suicide Squad with Jared Leto in it. Will Smith, they remade it, but I liked it. It was good. It wasn't great, but
Well, it was Suicide Squad was the first one. The Suicide Squad was the second, and it was a continuation.
Yeah, they did that on your right.
But, Jared Leto's Joker, so they did the same shit for him that they did in Star Wars, and they really didn't do him justice.
So what do you mean?
So Star Wars had the best villain that we never got to see because George Lucas folded like a wet napkin, which was Jar Jar. Jar Jar was the Sith Lord behind everything up until the third movie when they just because he got so much hate because people were like, oh my God, Jar Jar was this and that. And, I'm going to throw back to Kevin Spacey, this whole Caesar Koze thing where like the bad guy's hidden like an idiot in the background and all of a sudden, they're pulled forward. And, one of the fun things online is seeing how much CGI went into editing Jar Jar so that if you did it's like a 14-minute recap. And you can be like Jar Jar Binks is a Sith Lord. And you can find it. And there's a lot of things that prove that Jar Jar was not a normal Gungan and that his actions, mannerisms, everything that he did ultimately set up the Emperor Palpatine to, take over the Senate. And he is in so many key decision points. Like when Senator Amidala goes and is like, oh, we need to have a leader of the Senate. He's actually, the CGI, you'll see his lips moving in the background and his hand waving like he's doing a Jedi mind trick. Mm-hmm. And they're like, well, why in the hell would you not just have him stand there and spend the hours and the money to have him lip moving and hand waving? Because you don't have to do that. And then there's when he jumps into the water, when he first gets the two Jedi land on... No, it won't be a Star Wars spiel for long. But, the two Jedi land, Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan Kenobi. And they just happen to run into a random Gungan who is able to do a backflip somersault into the water.
Nice.
Which, it's like, oh, yeah, so they're super aquatic and super flexible. None of the other Gungans do or fight like that. None of them. They're all moving around, but none of them have that very Jedi-esque ability to move and do things. And he's always just when he's in the middle of a battle and he's just barely dodging things, oh, it's dumb luck. It's is it though? And people talk about how it's very drunken boxing style, which is, it's a very good fan theory. But, going back and hell, I forgot who the original person was that we were talking about. Joker. Thank you. So Jared Leto's Joker could have been the Robin that was infected and tortured and abused by Joker. And there's even one of the tattoos that he has a Robin on him. And
really? I didn't even catch that.
So people ask him, are you... I can't remember which Robin it is. It's the second or third.
Todd. Is it Todd? Jason Todd.
Good.
Yeah, that came out of nowhere.
Ooh. So the Jason Todd is, that Robin was the one that in Batman Beyond ends up being genetically altered, and he does a Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde of Joker, Jason Todd, Joker, Jason Todd, and it's a very interesting dynamic. Well, he could have been the tortured Jason Todd that thought he was Joker, and his acting would have actually aligned perfectly with that, 100%. And it's oh, dude, that's incredible. But instead they're no, he's just Joker. It's his take on it. It's well, fuck, that sucks. And because it doesn't align with any of the traditional Joker mythos or even the three Jokers that is running around in one of the newer comics. And haven't read those yet.
Did you say they have three Jokers running around?
So Batman, this is current comic stuff. So again, spoilers for anybody who's only watching the DC stuff. You'll see here. It's December 16th. Yeah.
No, we're December.
We're spoiling 2048 movies for you. So sorry about that. So Batman ends up getting into basically this. It's a chair that I think Odin uses that provides omniscience. And, you can ask it any questions, it provides you the information, etc. And it could be wrong, but anyways, it is a chair you sit in, and it does give you omniscience. And he's like, who is the Joker? And the chair's like, well, which one? There's 3. And so the comics dive into the 3 Jokers. It's the clown, the criminal, and I think the killer are the 3. And it really goes into that, and it's quite nice. Need to catch up and read on that.
I got a question. So you read comics a lot?
No, I'm on the internet a lot.
All right.
And
So I mean, where do you get your information? Like to be.
So I read a lot of comics when I was younger.
Okay.
Which has actually made me relevant until probably the next couple of years, and then I'll be like, okay, I don't know what's going to go on or what's happening. But that's when I was really young, and now I've got friends who do read comics heavily, and we'll just chat and touch base. And they're like, well, do you mind about spoilers? I'm like, shit, no.
Okay, I was wondering if you like every week you're reading the newest comic or that came out.
No, that's
because I was like, I kind of want in on that.
Right? Share the comics around.
Yeah.
I did read the comics. The last ones I really read were Invincible and The Walking Dead. And I liked where they went and ended up. Of course, Amazon just picked up Invincible, they did a really, really good job on that. It's the cartoon one where it's basically like if Superman had kids, but he's also like huge. Well,
if Superman had kids.
Well, I mean, you'll see it.
It's like a what if thing. Well, Marvel did that.
Well, Marvel did that. It's not quite like Brightburn.
Brightburn. I forgot about that.
Brightburn's going to be in a universe, and it's actually the way that they're trying to do it. If it takes off and they do the second one, is that imagine if the Justice League was a bad guy, and then the was it League of Supervillains, the Big 8 or whatever. They were the good guys trying to fight them, but Brightburn, the kid is basically Superman-ish, can only be hurt by like one thing, and has heat vision, super strength, flight, all that. Gives absolutely 8 shit. And he's 12, and instead of being Ma and Pa Kented, he's basically like, well, I'm going to do what the fuck I want because nobody can tell me no. And it's a really interesting twist. I hope they expand on that universe. They've done a little bit of that in DC where they're older. DC's Injustice, where Superman gets a mix of kryptonite and fear toxin from Scarecrow, compliments of the Joker, and you fly like basically the Joker. He gets super mad at him and is flying him up into the atmosphere to kill him. Like he gets mad enough at the Joker. I can't remember what he did to kill him. Well, flies him up. And as the Joker dies, the fear toxin with kryptonite wears off. Superman has grabbed pregnant Lois with his kid and has killed her in space. So, it ends up being like he drives his fist through the Joker, and that starts the whole Injustice thing where, it's pretty heavy. It's good stuff.
Have I asked you, like, who is your favorite ultimate superhero of all time? Like, do you have we ever talked about that? Your favorite one of all this stuff?
Of all the stuff, favorite to read or like,
I guess, yeah.
Who would you want to be when you grow up?
Yeah, maybe both. Let's do both. Because that's a good question. Favorite to read and favorite.
Let's see here. Favorite to read was definitely Iron Man.
Yeah.
Because, it's a shameless plug, but the dude, he was smart, and later in the comics, he does develop powers because of the things that he does to push his own limits while he's in the suit, and things that he realizes that he can't do because he is still a man in a suit. And actually did Iron Man 3. They did him dirty because not Nginx, that's a music group, but it was the injection that they were getting that was causing them to overheat, and he had to fight Guy Pearce, who was like some of the worst CGI ever. He's like, look at my hot chest and I breathe fire. It's like, but it was that it was that lines of thinking about improving the genetic predisposition, where he starts doing like some of the stuff where he does the implants to be able to work well with the suit. He actually starts blending in with the suit, and they did a little bit of that where he started using nanites and technology to become, because his whole point is like he wants to be faster, because every time he's not fast enough, like when Rhodey falls and hits the ground and he's crippled from the waist down, if he'd just been faster, like when he tries to, you know, take the nuke up out of New York, you know, if he'd been faster, he could have gotten back instead of falling and blacking out. Like, it's all about him increasing his speed. And so he tries to, you know, continuously just become faster while giving up some of that, like, you know, I'm going to be super, you know, impenetrable kind of Iron Man that he was originally.
Right.
When he's just walking through all like big nut diesel, like blah blah.
Tank bullets or whatever, tank shells.
Yeah. So you know,
so Iron Man's your favorite to read?
Probably the favorite to read because there's so much expansion that he can do because of it. Like if he works with the tech and he expands on it, like there's there's Iron Man Asgardian mode, the Celestial Killer Armor, all sorts of like cool shit that he does. But then you get probably my second favorite, and they've done a lot of TV and stuff with it, is just the Hulk. You know, a guy who he's cursed. Well, I mean, you think about like, you know, Bruce Banner and Bill Bixby and Lou Ferrigno. I got to meet Lou Ferrigno.
You met Lou?
I met Lou Ferrigno, shook his hand, got a photo of it at the house.
How come you never told me that?
Oh, yeah, dude.
That's badass.
I'll be honest with you. I was, at the time, I was like late 20s. I could curl 90 in each hand. And I'm 6'5". And like at the time,
same.
Yeah.
Right. All day.
So like I go up to this dude and I'm like, you know, 280 at the time. And again, like, you know, I was a little pudgy, but I was still kind of bigger.
Yeah. And
I shake his hand, and Lou Ferrigno's only like 6'2", 6'3".
Wait, how many years ago? Sorry to cut you off.
Like 10
Okay.
years, 8, 10, something like that.
Well, how old is he now? Last time I saw him, anything was that.
So he's in his 60s.
I Love You Man was the last thing I saw him. Yeah. He was pretty big in that
movie,
whenever that came out.
Yeah. So again, like he's above average height, 6'2", 6'3".
Okay.
And like I'm a little taller than him when I shake his hand, and I go to shake his hand, and this dude's biceps. I remember I was like, this guy's in his fucking 60s, and I feel like a small child. Like, I mean, just gigantic. And I mean, this is why he's, you know, obviously Mr. Olympia for what, 6, 7 times, like one behind Arnold, and he's always like, but you know, like even that, like I felt small, and it was super cool because, you know, I watched the Incredible Hulk growing up, and like he was my Incredible Hulk because, let's face it, you know, rural Virginia reruns. But you know, now like, you know, seeing you know, the CGI Hulks and stuff, like you don't identify with them as much, and that's why you get, you know, actors like The Rock, Ryan Reynolds, when they're like cutting out of their suits and they're just wearing that tight spandex. It's like, hey, I worked out hard to get these gains to be in that role. Like Lou Ferrigno's like, I was lifting my ass off so that I could be the Hulk, and he's a big dude in that. And you know, it's incredible work. It's super cool. But yeah, like reading about the Hulk and his growth of how he goes through, and the comics really kind of slimmed it down, and they don't have like as many of the alternate Hulks, because there was like Gray Hulk, there was traditional Green Hulk, there's like old man Hulk, right? She-Hulk. Well, that's not one of his.
Oh, okay, sorry about that.
So well, yeah, like She-Hulk, you have the Red Hulk, which is actually Thunderbolt. You know, the dude who's been chasing him, he's like, quit banging my daughter, you big green bastard. And like, when you say it like that, you can see why he's mad. Yeah. But yeah, Thunderbolt Ross, that's it. So he ends up becoming Red Hulk. She-Hulk is like his cousin or something in the comics, which is super weird because it's like, well, you know, there's similar genetics, and comics always does a really good job of pushing in for the boundaries of what is like science, and the best part is they can kind of get it right and kind of not, because it's like, well, if the science gets disproven later, like, well, fuck it, we didn't know any better. We're just having a good time. And if the science does prove it, like, hey, look at that shit. We're ahead of the curve. So they get the best of both worlds on that.
Nice.
But moving to Witcher.
Oh,
I saw that.
I saw the first season.
So first season was fantastic.
Superman's in there.
Yeah, dude. So my favorite part about...
Wait, did you play the video games?
I didn't, funny enough.
I'm surprised you would not play it. Even though, like, was it Witcher 3 is the newest one?
Witcher 3 is the newest one, and I may very well go through and just like blow through.
Like, that's one game I would love to play, yeah. It's fun. It's just fun all around.
It's a great game. Like, I've seen a lot of gameplay, and I know a lot of, like, some of the stories. I'll watch that on YouTube.
Yeah.
And, you know, check that shit out and be like, okay, like, kind of familiarize myself. but, there's books. And one of the scenes that they were filming, there was a snippet. Henry Cavill said, hey, I should say this. It came out of this book on page 238, and I think that's a really impactful line. And people are like, he is like a walking encyclopedia of Witcher information. And what is it, like, he almost missed his Superman edition because he was in a WoW raid and a World of Warcraft for people who don't know what WoW is.
I didn't know what that is.
So they are.
Yeah.
So, like, he is...
Did you ever play none of that? Sorry.
I didn't. I played EverQuest instead, which is an equally terrible for you game.
Gotcha.
Let's not...
Forward.
I've grown. Hashtag miss it. So, here we go.
That's what I did.
Anytime you can play a game where it takes you 2 to 4 hours for a single level, you maybe should, examine your life choices. So, that being said, he puts up a new standard that I think is both inspiring and frustrating for nerds. And I take myself as an example on this one because dude's built like a brick shithouse. Like, absolutely incredible physically looking. He learned how to do his own armor repairs because he was so muscular he kept fucking up his armor in The Witcher Season 1.
I didn't know that.
And very tiny spoiler, very tiny because it doesn't mean anything, but it's cool to note. There's actually, at one point, he's repairing his armor, and he's doing it, and they're filming it because it's part of what his character would be doing anyways, but it's actually him repairing his armor. So it was really cool that he can do that. And he's built his own computer, he still does a lot of that. But again, it's, who's the guy, not Joe Montana, but it's...
Joe Montana.
Joe Montana?
I don't know who.
No. It's Joe. He played the werewolf on True Blood.
I never got into True Blood.
Magliano. I'm butchering his last name terribly.
Sounds good.
But he does D&D weekly, Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah.
And again, like the dude, he's married to Sofia Vargo. Is the mid-50s, super hot.
Smoke show, huh?
Yeah. And,
yeah.
Hashtag can still look. But, so, he is in incredible shape as well and a huge nerd. And it kind of starts, we're now blending into, you're no longer shaming people because you're a dumb jock or, you're a tiny nerd. Like now it's like, okay, well, you can get the best of both worlds. Like, especially in American society, we have access to clean water, good food most of the time. We're currently trying to replace a bunch of lead pipes, and I'm like, there's few people. You obviously need it, but jokes aside, we're able to really kind of dig into some of these things, like how do we feel and look physically? How do we learn about things and access to the internet everywhere? So we're very fortunate, very hashtag blessed society, and able to do shit like this at the house. Hang out, drink whiskey, and, a few people are able to hang out with us, drink or not drink as they want, and, hear us bullshit about stuff. So, the whole thing about The Witcher.
Well, wait, real quick on that thought. One thing when I'm doing these podcasts and stuff, if I'm doing them very well, we'll go back to The Witcher, but just that you and I are having a conversation, when people are listening in and listening to bullshit, drink whiskey and eat cheese, I hope they actually feel like they're actually a person in the room.
Right.
Even though obviously they can't say anything, but that we're doing a decent job, and they think, oh, man, I'm glad to be part of this conversation. Even if they dig it or not, they don't dig it. I mean, if they don't dig it, then cut it off or whatever. But it's like, oh yeah, I love learning about superheroes, Witcher.
Well, that's why you can like and subscribe, and also leave comments below, and we will respond to those.
But yeah, continue on with The Witcher.
So, he really set the precedent for that, like, nerd, physically fit, best of both worlds kind of blend. But you're watching The Witcher and you're having a really good time. And Season 2 is a continuation of Season 1. It is fucking immaculate. And there is, I think Netflix already greenlit Season 3. I'm madder.
Dang.
So, I mean, but they did that in, like, Season 1. They greenlit, like, 2 through 4 or some shit. Or at least 2 through 3. Not like Cowboy Bebop, which Netflix, pay me a shitload of money. I will fix your anime problems. Fuck me. Quit ruining my childhood because you're getting subpar writers or the actors don't know what the fuck they're doing. I will fix this for you. You know what? Fuck it. And if I don't, you can have your money back. It's not as if you're doing anything with it anyways. Fucking Cowboy Bebop. I tried to like it. It's not bad.
It's not terrible. I watched it.
But
I went through season 1, yeah.
But it's the same thing like a lot of these animes like Death Note, Willem Dafoe. This is also not on the list. Willem Dafoe as Rick in Death Note was superb. Couldn't have done it better. Like if
he's a great actor though. He crushes his roles
every single time.
Yeah, I don't think I've seen anything bad from him. Off the top of my head. Maybe his really, really early stuff.
Not even then. His early stuff was Boondock Saints.
I was going to say that was the earliest thing I've ever seen from him. So if there was something before that, then shout out Willem Dafoe. Keep it up, bro.
Yeah. That's a guy you need to get on the show. Look, like that's the kind of guy that you don't see a lot of interviews of, and I think it'd be a great conversation.
You know, one thing that I've learned doing this is as long as you don't mind reaching out and being rejected, yeah, maybe that's a good. Well, I mean, I don't know how to reach out to them, but hell,
well, shit, dude. What is
you can't score if you don't shoot,
right? You don't shoot too hard, but I mean, you at least pick up the ball and toss it at the basket. See what's good. That. Going back to my frustration, absolute rage at Netflix. Like, they can make a hella good anime. Like Castlevania, that adaptation from the video game fucking nailed it. And 4 seasons of gold. And they finished the story, soup to nuts, happy with it. 7 Deadly Sins, that anime, fantastic. It reads a little bit like you figure it would. Like, you're not going to be, amazed by this turn of events of like, oh my God, the ending blew me in a fantastic way that I didn't understand. Like, no, you know what? It's a little bit safe in some of the shit that they do, and that's okay. It was extremely fun to watch and be a part of. And I'll watch it again. But you get to Death Note. It's okay, fine, fuck it. He's in New York. He's not in Japan. He's a white teen. He's on an Asian teen. But then they start taking away all of these things that you really enjoy about the character, his ability to remain cold, calm, and collected. And instead they make him angsty as fuck. And it's like, okay, we want to identify with the new generation. Like, then call it something else. Call it Death Book. Like, call it, Almost Died Note. Like, I don't know. I feel like if you're going to water it down, that's cool. If you want to be inspired by it, like,
almost.
And everybody talks about how the guy that played Jet in Cowboy Bebop was an immaculate actor. Fun fact, it seems like he's the only one that actually watched the fucking show. That dude, everything he's in, he was Jet.
It's going up.
Everything. And, because I rewatched the anime just prior to watching the series, and I'm like, this dude knew the assignment. Was it like...
that song, I knew the assignment.
Exactly. Like, crushed it. Faye was a watered-down version of Faye, and John Cho is a pretty good actor, but he played a very different Spike. Spike was a guy in the anime, in my opinion. Of course, opinions vary, and fuck yours. But, my opinion, jokes aside. And again, would like to see some comments, some actual interaction on the page. I'll reach back out to people.
Yeah.
But, my opinion is that he was, like, Spike in the anime was a man who was trying to forget his past and run away from it because he's like, that's not me anymore. I'm done. But he was haunted by the fact he always knew it was going to come back. Like, John Cho was a guy who was ready. He was ready for a fight. And he wasn't easygoing. And it was very, when you see the martial arts style, obviously, and my buddy Adam, that on the show, we were talking about the fighting styles. In the anime, it's very much like drunken boxing. Very go with the flow. There's a quote in the anime, like "be like water," which is Bruce Lee. And like his fighting style is again very much like flow around the punches, get the jabs and stuff. And then John Cho is incredibly physically talented, and I'm going to say it looked like Wang Chun. Very close quarters, very physical. Not a lot of flowing, lots of blocks, lots of strikes. Great to watch the action. And his Spike was reflexive of that martial arts style. It's a little harder. It's a little. He's not Ip Man. He's not Donnie Yen. But he was again kind of harder, a little more grainy, and they were trying to push like his name is Fearless, which never comes up in the fucking anime, by the way.
Yeah.
And Vicious is like, well, he's Mr. Steal Your Girl as opposed to just kind of like a coworker.
Steal your girl.
And they try to make that a whole thing, and I'm like, if you want to say like this is inspired by, or this is a continuation or an alternate, like say it's a fucking alternative if you want, like something it's like this is not a true thing to the anime, and I think that the fans will be more receptive. Or if you want to make a shot for shot, do a fucking shot for shot. People are okay with that. And, like Samurai Champloo is an amazing fucking anime. Trigun is an amazing anime. Like these are like top tier animes. So Netflix has the right idea. They're identifying the right ones. They're really, really good. But they're getting people, it's like, did you even fucking see the source material? Like at what point did you think that was a good idea? Like Light Yagami in Death Note was all about taking the girl who also had her own Death Note and exploiting her mercilessly because he didn't give a shit about her. Mm-hmm. And then, they tried to turn it at the last second in Death Note and being like, oh, he's fawning over her and he's all about her. And then he's like, yep, fuck it. I don't care about you. It's like, but that didn't lead up anywhere in his character. Like his character was like, oh my God, I need her. I want her. I'm a boy that, oh my God, teen angst, simp, pie or whatever. Like, oh God.
Damn, man.
It was just poorly executed, and it leads me into Avatar: The Last Airbender. Netflix is doing the creators. They brought them on board. And I was like, yes. And the creators were like, and we're out because of disagreements. I was like, fuck, it's gonna be awful.
Shit.
I mean,
the actual creators wanted to actually take it to a legit series part of it. Netflix tried to put their.
Well, the creators made a legit series. It's Avatar: The Last Airbender, sir. I'll defend that to my death.
But no, that's one thing that, when people start doing their own stuff, that there's always somebody else in the corner like, no, man, let's do it this way and change it because they're going to get one. Like, no, keep it like what you're saying. Keep it original. Like, that's one thing about doing these things that, hey, you do it the way I want to. I don't have some knucklehead like, hey, man, we want you to dress this way. You should have said it this way. Let's talk about this. Like, yeah, do whatever, man. We're doing the real thing.
You want to wear some Chanel? All right, I'm with you. Like, Chanel send you some flexible clothes.
That might be
different. Lululemon? Yeah.
I'm a Lulu guy. What's up? What's up? Shout out, Lulu.
Real talk, dude. I saw $500 pants by Lululemon, and dude was walking around like he's like, dude, look at the flexibility. He's like, I could be about that. Like, I was like, all right, like those are good pants. But
they make good stuff.
Yeah, again that creative flexibility, and I think you're right. If you get a little bit of money and all the creative flexibility, you can produce some real gold. But if you get a shitload of money and they kind of pigeonhole you into, oh, you got to do it like this, then you're losing it.
Yeah, money has a weird thing about changing the way your morals and values are.
Yeah.
You get a little bit of that taste of money, and you're like, you're right, fuck everything. Give me that money.
Money's the reason we saw a lot of Kyle Rittenhouse and not a lot of the same Maxwell. What is it, like 4, I think, who was it, does the minute clips? And it was the guy.
The guy with Barstool?
Yeah, Barstool.
Yeah. KFC.
God, he was fucking mad because of that article about where they said he was a rapist, potentially. And he's like, this was unfounded evidence, and you guys have done this, and he's suing them. I hope he wins, because fuck him. You're gonna say something, be like, oh, he touched a girl once and she didn't like it. It's like, well, like, if he did, fine, but hear the things first.
But that's what we talked about earlier. That nobody's willing to hear this stuff first. They don't want to take their deep dive, do their DD, their due diligence into anything. They're just going to go off whatever. Like my ass talking about something that I may have just read 2 headlines. Like now I know I'm an expert in it.
Right.
But yeah, it's like, don't listen to me. Go do your own stuff and form your own opinion.
And do legitimate research. Like if you Google, do I have the biggest dick, and it comes up yes. Maybe you search the next page.
Actually, go to page 2 on Google.
Go to page 2. But the forgotten page.
There's only one page of Google. Everything after that's to be honest.
First page, and Google, unfortunately, is a victim of their own success in this. And people don't know analytics, don't understand. Google serves up content based on what is put into the search bar and then what people click on the most. Well, if the people, sorry, I know you're listening. You're always listening. So, their analytics, if people are looking at the same content with the same searches, they pull it up because they're like, oh, this is the most relevant. And it makes sense. If you're like, oh, I want to find out what the new species of shark is, and you Google what is the new species of shark, more people who look at that article, it will float to the top like cream. That's the whole point of having a search engine, because the more people that search, the better it gets at it. The problem is now we have so many people talking about tribes, groups, people who have cognitive biases, right, wrong, or indifferent. The more they search for a specific search terms and how they phrase it will bring things up that other people who probably have a similar cognitive bias review it. So, if you're looking at like, why is Abraham Lincoln the greatest president ever? Well, a lot of other people that Googled that, they're looking for things to justify that point, are pulling it up, so it's raising it up to the top. So now all of a sudden, page one is all about Abraham Lincoln. That big hat was covering up more than his forehead. Like, things like that.
Yeah.
And, it's a lot to get over. I'm still, like I said, angry at Netflix, but I'm scared. I'm scared because Avatar: The Last Airbender, what is it, like 20 years later, 10 years? It came out in the early 2000s, like in the heyday of SpongeBob and shit like that. They're still, like, discovering little gems about how well written that show was and how forward thinking, not like season to season, but how it was a full story that they're telling.
Yeah.
And like little bits of information, and how that's translated into the Legend of Korra. Hopefully they're coming out with something new. I haven't heard it. Please give them the same writers and the same creators. Anybody else can, do something else. M. Night Shyamalan, if he gets near a fucking Avatar movie again, needs to be beaten about the head and shoulders until, somebody else says quit. All right, so we talked about the, and we'll see if this green screen is worth a shit. So hopefully, again, you guys, if you see something cool happening in the background, that means the green screen worked and the replacement, figuring this stuff out, maybe a big Shelor Select logo from time to time. Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, that'd be smart.
Logo.
Yeah, bro.
Yeah, dude.
So, cheers to that, man.
Yeah. And, something, and if it's just green, well, you know what?
We tried. Aim for best effort.
We showed up.
Yeah, we did everything else.
We understood the assignment, but we failed it anyways.
Well, John, let's take this one home on that one then.
All right, buddy. Well, it's been an absolute pleasure.
Dude, always good having you on.
Yeah.
Appreciate the drinks, appreciate the cheese, appreciate Lagavulin. Man, this was great. I appreciate you hosting Shelor Select.
Thank you. I appreciate the first remote, hopefully not the last.
Shout out to all your stuff though before.
Yeah, man. So perpetual mechanism, baby. Yeah. So perpetual mechanism. We're still kind of figuring out where we are in our space. Mostly, we're trying to appeal to those young adults and middle-aged and slightly older adults, working professionals with and without family members that they're taking care of, trying to figure out, what it is in this world that, we're doing. Everybody has their opinion. Everybody has, their thoughts on what they want to do, what they like, what they don't like. And, we're going to give our specific blend and flavor on that. And, we're... once again, I'm representing a cisgendered white male with a beard who wants to tell you what the fuck is good while drinking his whiskey. But but also with that flavor of understanding that it's like, hey, let's figure stuff out without being #fucking woke. Like actually digging into things, not being so poppy and trending or preppy and trending.
Yeah.
Trendler? What the fuck is that?
Sounds good.
I'm going to edit that out. But, all right, man. But, yeah, it's been an absolute pleasure. Love doing these with you. Hopefully, we're going to have to get you a GoPro for Christmas or something. From GoPro, #, please and thank you. But, yeah, just so you can do some of these remote sessions.
For sure.
On location. Definitely have you back. Again, green screen goodness and, cheese and whiskey.
Woo!
Nothing else, just fucking 15, 20-minute review of the whiskeys.
Yeah, you just know how to push my buttons, dude. That's easy enough. Shake your hand on it. We'll call it a day. Appreciate you.